Oh, you need the ones that are actually. Here.
Thank you all so much for coming this afternoon. We're going to get started here in about 1 minute. Mr. Preston, Jaya, we're going to shoot out of here around 5 o'clock. So we're going to jump right in and let him get started. I'm so excited. I'm Jennifer Passmore for those of you who don't know me, but I'm sure you've gotten lots of emails from me. I'm the Public Information Officer for DE2. And today we have with us Ms. Chris Brown, our attorney, President Jaya, our Director of Security, and Scott Matthews, our Executive Director of Personnel. So they're going to share lots of great information with y'all today. So I'm going to hand it over to Preston, and he's going to get us started on the Raptor system.
Hey, good afternoon. Appreciate you guys being here. So, probably really wasn't a choice for you. I still appreciate it. We do have Raptor coming in. It's replacing Identikit. It was supposed to be ready on July 1st. But it's kind of like when my kids were little, they would say, hey, can we do this or do that? I'm like, we'll see. 80% of the time, that's yeah, I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to do it later. That's kind of where we are with Raptor. July 1st came along, hey, we're going to be ready this week. We're like, we'll see. The next week's like, we're ready? We'll see. They finally did roll it out last week. So our IT department is going around setting up those units as we speak. This week they should be doing that. Hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow or first thing on Friday, those Raptor units will be set up so that we can operate our visitor management, our student check-in for late arrival, as well as our visitor management systems. So the way that's going to look, just kind of so you have an idea, is there will be an iPad kiosk at the front desk with a wireless printer that visitors will check in, and then any volunteers that have already been approved will also be in the system. So they'll be able to scan their ID, click in as a volunteer, and they will log when they got there, when they left, kind of give you an idea of how many hours and their pre-reports and things like that for the visitors, so you keep track. The other thing that Raptor is going to do for us is they will have a link. At some point, tomorrow I hope, or early next week, they will send me that link. And that's a link that you can send out to anybody that wants to volunteer in our school. So somebody that say, I want to do this, do that, you can send them that link. They can click on that link and it'll take them to an application. That application will allow them to select the school in which they want to volunteer. If they want to volunteer at multiple schools because they have kids in multiple schools, they'll be able to fill that out as well. So they'll be able to select multiple schools in that. It will also ask them, it will also ask them in what capacity do they want to volunteer. They want to be involved with PTSA, they want to help in classrooms, they want to be cafeteria monitors. It'll give them options as to what they want to volunteer with, what program they want to volunteer with, and then they'll have others so they can fill that out as well. Once they do that, it will run a background check. They submit it. It'll ask them for some identifying information. Usually, I think you put on their birthday, driver's license number, maybe last four of their social security number or something like that. The system will run a background check for us, and then send that information to whoever we have designated to go to at the school. So whoever we have designated at the school to get that information will get an email from Raptor, say, hey, Preston Jaya has applied to volunteer at Somerville High School. He has been approved via the background check. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to continue to approve that person and assign them a volunteer role in the school. So If they ask, the information that they put on the application, so when they put their date of birth, and their social security number, the driver's license number, we're not gonna get that at the school. You're just gonna get an email that says they applied, they've been approved. If they get denied, you're gonna get an email that says they've been denied, let's say something was flagged in their background, and then it'll be up to them to kind of go through some process as to why they were flagged. It's not up to us to have to go through their background and say, hey, well, you know, you have an outstanding warrant in Arkansas that you didn't know about. You won't have to do that, and get with them and kind of to figure that out. I like that because it kind of takes the discussion off of you guys, or whoever's having to have that discussion. You say, hey, right beside you, I don't know why, you might want to look into it. And then they have a chance to look into it and figure it out. We can, I think we'll talk a little bit more about if we need to do a secondary background screening, and some of those folks, you know, some of those questions, we can. So that's kind of where we are with the process now. I'm assuming it's going to work because there's, you know, other school districts throughout the country that have been doing it. The only reason that it's so late rolling out for us is that we upgraded to a better version. So we went with the iPad kiosk at the front desk, where that iPad acts as a scanner, it scans the front of their ID, it scans the back of their ID, makes sure it's not a fake ID, and it puts all of that out for you, for our visitors as well. Each school will also have the old school version, so the desktop or web application of Rapid. So that'll work very much like Identity. You'll be able to manually input information. So if it doesn't have an ID, and maybe you don't have a passport or a military ID or something like that, I think there's one district that doesn't use a passport ID. It's got the passport card, and there's an application and passport card. So, but you'll be able to manually input, or somebody at the front desk will be able to manually input that information. So somebody does show up, they want to volunteer, they can do it at the kiosk, it's all the application right there. And most schools will only have one iPad kiosk in the front desk. It's better to send them a link so that they can go home and do that. You'll be able to put it in newsletters, post it to social media, all those types of things. So it'll be very easy process.
So you may have said this at the beginning, I can a couple months later, apologize. This is different, this is a different link than the QR code that they have been using? Correct.
Yes.
And so,
We'll still need both,
okay, so
because on your website, they'll fill out the district agreement and application form.
Okay.
That goes to the volunteer coordinator.
Yep.
And then you guys take that information and then you then send them that link for the background check.
I
And
got
it
you,
sounds
okay.
like there may be some duplicate information on the two forms, and we can kind of hash that out.
Okay.
But for the first years, let's just kind of go with it as it is, and then we'll see if we can tighten that up next go round. But I want to make sure the volunteer coordinators at the school have all the necessary information that you're going to get from that application, because you're not going to get it from that background check. That's going to go to a background check coordinator.
Yeah, so there will definitely be some duplication this year, mainly because we haven't seen Raptor in action yet, so we're not exactly sure what that process looks like. I think that in the following years, we'll be able to just have the link, you know, to do everything we need to do. We weren't 100% sure, so we didn't want to get rid of something that we don't need later. Any other questions?
What's the turnaround for when they fill out the actual factor?
Minutes, 60 seconds, yeah, it's very, very fast. If they're a unique name, it goes through pretty quick. If they have John Smith, it takes a little bit longer because it works to cipher all of that information. But it's within minutes. So it's not like a day or anything like that. Usually, you can tell, hey, we're back in an hour, you're going to have it. Unless the system for some reason.
And they got feedback.
Good question. No. So I'm not sure if they will get notified by Raptor that they were denied, or if that goes to us and we have to tell them they were denied. I don't know exactly how that notification works. Great question. Don't know. So,
But even if they did, we're getting something, they're not gonna get anything. I'll take that out.
yeah, just a receipt, they fill it out, and then you can. Submit.
Just to clarify, we will put the QR code first, then you'll see fill that out when you send it around. is the volunteer acceptance process. Um, So this may change slightly, so y'all bear with us this year, but as we learn more about Raptor and how it's working, if we make any adjustments to this, I will certainly be in touch with y'all to update that information. But yes, so step one is your prospective volunteer completes that district volunteer agreement and application form that's on the website. They will access it from the website on the front end of the website, not to be confused with the internal link that you guys get to access the QR code and to do data entry. And then step two, the volunteer coordinator sends the Raptor background check link to that prospective volunteer once they get their information from that online form. And step three, the prospective volunteer completes the Raptor background check online, and you'll almost immediately get a reply for that. And then step five, the Raptor background check coordinator at each school, who is different than the volunteer coordinator. The volunteer coordinator is only going to be doing data management from our district form that's online on the website. The Raptor background check will be a designee who will get that background check information. And they will either forward the cleared names onto the volunteer coordinator, or they will reach out to personnel that they've got, or they'll send that to their principal or administrator that they've got someone who is flagged, and then the principal will then reach out to personnel to see if it's something they can work with. If you want to speak to that.
First of all, thank y'all for what you do, appreciate you. Yeah, we've always used the same criteria for volunteers as we do when we hire folks. We have a pretty intense background check when we hire employees for anybody that applies for the job. We need to, so we use that same criteria, so then when you get to the point where you have to, whoever the coordinator is, the principal, wants to flag something in the background, they reach out to us, and we're going to as Preston said, we're going to look at it, see what it is. A couple of things we look at is what is it? What type, what is it? There's all kind of things that can show up on the background check. Speeding, armed robbery, you name it, they can show up on the background check. So we look at what it is, is it a speeding ticket from 1978? Well, it's probably not, we're going to probably clear that person to be a volunteer. So was it a felony? Was it a misdemeanor? How long ago did it happen? Is it something that happened 2 years ago? Is it still pending? Or is it something that happened 20, 30 years ago? We look at all that, and, we have a process in place that we would use to kind of determine whether someone is clear or not. As Preston said, when we deliver, we let someone know that they're not clear. We just don't go into the deep. It's up to them to, we just let them know they're not clear, and they can look at their own background and check it out. We don't go into details about why and what else on the record. We just don't do that. But we're happy to, as a personnel department, we certainly want to make sure that we do our part in the system with the volunteer process to make sure that it's clear and eligible to be inside of the
Any other questions for me about Raptor and how Raptor works?
Like, the volunteer plan, we're the ones who are the volunteers, but the background site is something else.
It's going to send it to whoever he designated in your school.
Okay, because I just thought it was on campus. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like we're the ones that are online. So-
Yeah, it's going to send that background check information, to whoever designated on campus. And it can be multiple people, the level of the background as well. So it's just a matter of once the system's up and running, going in and putting those email addresses into the right spots to get those distributed. Like you said, I think eventually the Raptor link will replace the QR code because we can add forms to the application, so we can add the agreement and those type of things to it. We just aren't there yet because we haven't had a chance to get in there, play with it, and kind of check it out.
Figure out, what principles, the name of the name, to y'all, or does that connect you?
Yes. That's a good question. I think they can just designate whoever they want to designate.
repeat your question?
For the background.
Yeah, so if you look on the acceptance process or maybe you're mentioning it, that when step 3, when the volunteer completes it, then the rapid background check coordinator, which the principal will designate through that background check coordinator list, they will get that information.
But they don't have to, they don't have to let us know that.
No.
The school, if whoever principal does that, when you do that, we don't have to do that.
And then they'll funnel that information to the principal and to you. If they've been cleared, they'll say they've been cleared, you can move on to the process, and if they flag, they'll send that information. And the principal will person.
Anybody else, question about Hunter? That's it? I have a question.
Again, you may have said this, I'm sorry, and the link is ready now.
The link is ready now, so they're gonna submit, we've already done, we've already put in some preloaded questions. Oh, that's another thing too. When we send you the link, you will be able to customize the application to yours. That's another important thing. So you'll be able to add questions and take questions out if you want to. There's a couple of questions that are denoted as they must fill these out. But there will be some questions that you can add as well, you know, times that they want to work, events that they want to work, programs that they want to work with, those types of things. So you will have the ability to customize that. The link is ready, I just don't have it yet. I wanted to wait for the system to be in place before I got that and sent it out. So we should have it, I'm hoping, sent out to everybody no later than Monday, Tuesday next week. Okay.
The QR code that has the volunteer information sent to us, that's already live.
Yeah, that's on your website. That's on your website.
Okay.
And that's how all volunteers should submit their information to start the process. So every volunteer has to do that every year.
Okay, but if we push that back,
Yes.
so it's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, want to make sure.
Yeah, because that creates a spreadsheet for youth volunteer coordinators and gives you all the information, because you're not going to get that information this year from the background check. So that's going to be where you get your data management from that. Right, so once you get the information from the online agreement form, the district's form, then you can send those people the link, and they can go ahead and start sitting that in, and then that process just starts from there.
So I know for sure you check for it out, and who's getting that form? We sent it off to the commander, I think after she had 5 minutes. So like, who is that?
So I sent out an email that if you do not have the back-end access, that internal link that contacts me. So after this meeting, if you don't have access to the back end of your form, just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to send that information to you. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Follow up with the contribution someone security or volunteer.
Right, so to access the district agreement form, you have to be on site with the DD2 email. Yeah. But you can get somebody in the office to do it for you, and they can pull it and send it, email it to you. So that works for some people. Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
If like more than one person receives a raptor to see about the background check.
I think you mentioned.
Yes.
Yes, so you'll be able to, the question, I'm trying to remember for the people on camera. The question was, will we be able to designate more than one person to get the results of the background checks? Yes, we'll be able to put in multiple emails so people receive the results from the background checks. Any other questions? Escape. If something does come up when we get going with Raptor, if you do have questions, please email me, because I'm not boots on the ground dealing with it every single day. So you're gonna have questions that I would not have even thought to ask. And I know if you have them, other people are gonna have them as well. I'll be the point of contact for that, so feel free to send me that email. I will try to get an answer as quickly as possible, and then blast that back out to everybody, just in case other folks have the same questions as well. So this is brand new to everybody, so don't feel like you should know the answers, because I certainly don't know the answers. I've been dealing with them since, basically last December trying to get this program going. So, please feel free to shoot me an email at any time. That's easy to grab my phone all the time. So we'll work through that process together. And
What is that email?
it's PGIET at Worcester to .org. No problem. Anybody else? All right, I'll make a run for it. All right, thank you.
I think I'm gonna make a run forward too. Yeah, anything, yeah, anyway, we're always happy to support personal department if you ever need to reach me, I'm at SC Matthews, all that other stuff. But, I'm always happy to support and make sure that, someone's flying with that, with the PD part to find out what it is. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you guys. My name is Christy Graham, I'm General Counsel of the district, and I am here to talk about any board policies and answer questions for you guys. First, thank you for being in charge of volunteers and helping out with that. That is huge help for our district, so we seriously appreciate it. In your packet, you will find the relevant board policies for volunteers. You will notice that the policy IJOC, which previously applied to volunteers, we have a separate policy, IJOB, that applied to people who were assisting or presenting in classrooms, and so we combined those policies this year. In 2024, those were combined to IJOB, IJOC. I do not need the lettering system. I have I cannot begin to make sense of it for you, so I'm sorry about that. It is a very complicated name, but I guess easy to remember, iJob for volunteers. And so it was not, while we did combine those policies, it did not include any substantial changes to the board's intentions for volunteers. You can read that language there as well as the administrative rule IJOC-R that goes with that. But as I said, there weren't any major changes. If you do have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. I did just want to point out a couple of things that are either in the policy or in the agreement, which is one, the importance of reminding your volunteers of confidentiality of the things that they see, learn about in the schools. When they're in classrooms, they may learn of students who have special needs, medical conditions, students' behaviors, all of those sorts of things, and we want to make sure that they understand that that is confidential information that they are getting in schools. They should not be talking about that with their friends, their neighborhood Facebook groups, any of that. And I think that it's important to remind them that they wouldn't want volunteers coming into the school talking about their students, so they need to be respectful of other people's students' privacy as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, I believe that all of the schools have procedures in place for restroom usage while volunteers are on campus, but please do make sure that your volunteers know they should not be using the student restrooms. They should only use adult restrooms, and make sure that that is clear to them and that they have access to those restrooms. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, it is not covered in our board policy, and our board has not issued a specific statement on it. But we do want the volunteer coordinators to make sure that they are in line with their administration's position on whether or not volunteers can bring other minor children with them when they volunteer. We certainly understand that a lot of people have other children at home with them and want them to be able to provide services to our schools. But it is a liability risk to have other children there that we don't have contact information on. They could get hurt on our campuses. There's a whole list of things that we're bringing kind of goes the same with all of us, I try not to think about it, but, you know, do make sure that you are clear on what your administration's expectation is on those, volunteers bringing in other children with them and sort of what tasks can be assigned to them while they have it. Any other questions that I can answer for you guys? I will not run straight out the door, so, if you think of something later on, we're not just gonna have this. But if there is, anything else I can do for you, let me know, and I will stick around if you have questions as well.
Okay, so if you guys go, we're just gonna do a quick run through, if anybody doesn't have any questions, through a few things on the handbook, and then we'll answer any, remaining questions after that. On page 4, you'll see we've already got the dates in place for the volunteer appreciation breakfast. It's going to be April the 24th, 2025, at Rawlings Middle School of the Arts. And the district will be providing, like we did last year, invitations to you that you will distribute out to your volunteers that you would like to recognize. And we'll have RSVPs come back by April the 9th. And of course, Volunteer Appreciation Week is the 20th through the 26th, and we encourage you guys to, as you probably all do, have volunteer appreciation activities at your school level. You can make that your own and have fun with it. Any questions about that event? Okay. Just a note on page 5, how we greatly appreciate the work that you all do, and the incredible amount of hours that were recorded last year, and I'm sure there were many hours that weren't recorded, but even with the hours recorded, we had 66,479 hours, and that equates to over $2 million for the district, for students, and for the teachers. So we greatly appreciate the work that you all do. Looking over to page 6, just to walk through the role of the volunteer coordinator for those of you who are new this year. How many new volunteer coordinators do we have this year? Okay, good. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. That's my role. I'm the liaison to the district. If you have any questions throughout the year, please don't hesitate to call me or email me. That's what we're here to do, is to help and assist you all. So the role is to coordinate plans with the principal and faculty, informing the community of the need for a volunteer program, why it's so important for people to volunteer. With the approval of the principal, we'll want to introduce the volunteer program to teachers at many faculty meetings, surveying teachers to determine the needs for volunteer help, recruiting and signing volunteers, and there's some extra information, extra tips on page 11 for recruiting volunteers, interviewing, screening, and placing volunteers, matching those teacher needs with interests and abilities of the volunteers, and they fill out that information on the form. And then training teachers in the use of volunteers. There is orientation and training information on pages 15 and 16. That is done at the school level. So you will want to get with your principal or the administrator that's in charge of volunteers and discuss with them what that needs to look like. Every school is different, every school culture is different. So you have the flexibility to design the training and the orientation to fit your needs, and there's lots of helpful tips for you in the back of the handbook. Any appreciation functions, and promoting good relations between the school and the community. And make sure to reach out to your, there's a social media person at your school. So when you have, you may have a volunteer of the month, you want to get on the social media and get that out there. Our families really enjoy that kind of information and see how people are giving back to the schools. And again, just to make sure in the getting started section, to sit down early on with your principal and just see what your vision is and how y'all can work together to formulate your program. We've already gone over the board policies that are the next few pages. I encourage you guys to read those. On page 7 for the first policy, IJOB, IJOC, it does say towards the end that the resource persons and volunteers will work with students under the immediate supervision and direction of a district employee. So volunteers are not in instruction, in writing papers, any of that stuff that is assigned to a teacher or district personnel. Our volunteers are in a supportive role, and we've got lots of good examples towards the end of the handbook about that. Just to go over a few procedures that we probably hit on a lot of those on page 10. It's very important that our volunteers sign in and sign out every time they volunteer in the school building through Raptor. All volunteers must wear the Raptor visitor or volunteer ID at all times while they're in the building, and that helps to know who's on campus, and when there's an emergency, it helps with that too, so you know who to look for. The policy of the Board of Trustees of Dorchester School District 2 regarding the policies during the handbook must be posted in a visible place near the sign-in area or included in your school's volunteer handbook. It's a good idea to create a volunteer handbook, kind of like I've done for you guys. It can be, make sure you've got your information as a volunteer coordinator. Maybe you've got a map of the school, maybe you've got the school calendar, maybe you have information about ways that people can volunteer. Just any information in there, any training dates that you have, that they'll have one packet to be able to look back to for information. How many of you already have a volunteer school handbook for your volunteers? So I would definitely recommend doing that because it's really helpful. Volunteer application and agreement form indicates that the volunteer understands the district policy that governs volunteers, and by signing the agreement, volunteers agree to follow all district procedures and policies governing the volunteer program. And again, volunteers who sign the volunteer agreement also indicate that they understand that they must submit to a background check from the Raptor system. Each school will designate a Raptor background check coordinator designated by the principal. Volunteer coordinators, PTA, presidents, or other volunteers should never initiate background checks. That's going to be the background check coordinator. Any questions about all of that? Yes, please.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
That's where the volunteer coordinator should initiate background check, and so we don't send them around this thing?
So you can send in the link. Yeah, the volunteer coordinator sends the link. If you go back to the bottom of page 10, step 2, the volunteer coordinator sends the Raptor background check link to the prospective volunteer. And then once that link goes out to them, they'll submit that form to do the background check, and then that goes to the background check coordinator. And then the coordinator will then coordinate with you, with people who are approved, and then they'll coordinate with the principal for anyone who is in file. Good question. Okay. On page 11, there's some great tips for recruiting volunteers. Please feel free to take a look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. You may have some other ideas you may want to add to that. Page 12, just to reiterate again, the district volunteer agreement and application form is completed annually by all volunteers, and you access that through your school website because that data is unique to your school. So they access it through the school that they're interested in volunteering at, under the schools tab, and then volunteers. And then the link that I send to you guys, that internal link that's for you only, not for the public in any way. That'll give you access to that QR code to you can use in promotion and to manage your data so that you can create your volunteer lists and contact information. You can use that information as you need to. Yes, ma'am.
So are these already on the school website?
Yeah, the forms are already in.
Okay, that's not something that's good.
Nope, and the forms never left. They're the same forms that were on there last year. We didn't have any changes to the forms. They've been updated to 24, 25. So for those of you who were volunteer coordinators last year, your link that you had still gets you to the back end. And any new coordinators, just contact me and I will get you that link to the back end to manage that data. Do not clear.
No, I mean, from last year.
Do not
I
clear.
was people.
Keep them on there. It's good to have that historical list, in case you need to access that information for any reason. I would say for the time being, to keep that information on there. Any other questions? And to access the QR code, you'll see a button at the top of the page, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. It says collect responses, and that's how you get to the QR. All right. Page 13 is record keeping. I'm just going to go through the top bullets, and then the information down towards the bottom just has a little bit more explanation. The administrative details of an effective volunteer program usually include the utilization of the school's online volunteer agreement and application form. Volunteers are required to sign in and sign out through the Raptor system. Name tags are generated through the Raptor system and should be done at all times. Submission of monthly volunteer hours to the public information officer, that's me. I'll send you out a reminder, or Ms. Broomfield over there, Darlene, wave your hand, say hi. She may be sending out that reminder each month to please submit your volunteer hours, because we like to collect those, and volunteer hours can be anything. It can be anyone who's doing any type of project on behalf of the school, whether it's during school hours, on the weekend, at night. If they're doing work to benefit the school, you can count those as benefits volunteer hours. So please, and if you, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the bottom, and a record of the volunteer contact information. From the form, you'll give your name, address, and email, and just keep a record of, the type of volunteer that they're interested in, when they like to work, days they like to work, that sort of thing. So when a need arises, you'll have that information. And if you would skip down to the bottom into the content that is orange, this is where you guys will submit your volunteer hours every month. If you don't have any hours for a month, just enter 0. That way I know you at least submitted them, and I don't have to follow up with you to say, please submit your hours. So if you don't have any, just put a 0 and then you won't get any more from us.
Are we gonna learn how to contact after?
Oh, that is another form that we keep.
No, I know that.
Oh.
Because I had to get those hours manually. But how do I go through after?
And fill out those, I don't have that information.
So you wouldn't be able to.
Right, so if you could, it's a good point. So just do it the way you've been doing it, the form that I've been sending you, but yes, you're right, at some point, we should be able to put
I
those.
filled that form out, but I go into my actual
Right.
form that says you have 360 hours.
Okay, that's where you get the information.
So I don't know where to get.
Okay,
And is that not something that after was, and you guys go through? I don't know.
I will find out for you.
But in the meantime, we just take our full access to our
Yeah, you can create your own system that works for you. You can have them like I send the form to you guys, and you send the information to me. You can form to your folks, so you don't have to do paper and pencil, and they can send it to you. So that's a good question. I will find out how Raptor may collect those hours and how to access that information. Here's myself. So I would imagine the more we learn about the system, we'll be able to streamline some of this stuff, so please be patient with us as we kind of figure all this out together. Yes. No, you're good.
So, I have done before, so I
Okay.
just want to make sure I'm following along. Last year was a different system that she wanted to use to collect hours that needed to be sent.
Right.
This year, we will no longer use that system.
Right, Raptor is replacing Identity.
Okay, all right.
So I will get with Preston, he may have the answer to that question, but I will get with him and I will do a follow-up email with you guys after the workshop to answer some of these questions that I don't have answers.
And then when, but you have an internal form that you use that you will email to us,
Yes.
and that's where you would like the hours input.
Yes, ma'am. And usually at the beginning of the month, we'll send a reminder, please make sure you submit your hours by the end of the month. And then we like to collect as many of those as we can because we celebrate that number at our volunteer appreciation.
Okay. Perfect.
Anybody else? So on the next page, page 14, the role of the volunteer, there is a laundry list of ways, and there's probably more, different ways that volunteers can assist in school. But again, I would say talk to your principal, your administrators, and your teachers and find out what the needs are at your school. These are just ideas, but you may have unique needs at your school that may not even be in this list. So this is just a idea sheet. Page 15 and 16 are some general guidelines for conducting an orientation and the types of information you may want to go over. And if you guys have any questions about that information, please don't hesitate to let me know. And again, this is yours to design at the school level, and you just want to design it to meet the needs of your population at your school. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? And this isn't the end all be all, so if you have questions, a day from now, please don't hesitate to email me. That's what I'm here for, is to support you. Oh, before I forget, let me show you guys the, I have to go up once. Show you guys the online form for those of you who are new. On the screen. So when someone goes to your volunteer page, they have gone to the school tab and they've gone to volunteers, and they'll land on your volunteer page, and it's set up like that for everybody's websites. And then the volunteer will scroll down to submit their volunteer agreement and application form, and this is the data that goes to you, the volunteer coordinator. And once you receive that information, then you can use that information for your own files, but then you will send a link to that potential volunteer to get that background check started that kicks off the process. Does that make sense? And when you log in on the back end with that link that I give you, it's going to look like this. And so you'll see it has this menu up at the top where you collect responses. This is where you get your QR code right here. And the form that they access from the website does not have those options. So that's how you know when you're on the back end. You use that internal link, and it will send you to this form.
And the QR code that's accessible goes to our volunteers,
It goes to your unique school.
we send it to our volunteers.
You can send it to you can use it at your school, however you want to promote the volunteer program, it takes them to that form.
Yeah.
For them to access that form, that's what the QR code sends you to. Okay? Any questions?
They need to do the school site first.
Yes.
Next time, it's a question. Sorry.
Page 10, if we just go back to that process, because it is a lot of trying to keep things straight. So the school website is first. So any prospective volunteer needs to go to the school website, do that form, and that's when you would then send them the link to initiate that background check. That's right, that's right. Gotta have a name and an email address.
Sorry.
No
It came out of my mouth, and then there was a slight delay, and I was like, no, that was not a good question.
Well, it's a lot of information to get all at one time, so totally understandable. And like I said, if you have any questions that pop up, please don't hesitate to let me know. All right, well, thank y'all, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
You're very welcome, thank you.